in a much better shape than we were in 2008, 2009.
Okay.
If we think about it for a 30-day, let's say, shutdown, or even if 30 days is probably what we're looking at now. That's weatherable with the lines of credit that exist today, and also with cash reserves on hand.
Carla Bailo, CEO of the Center for Automotive Research. This is certainly a difficult time for the auto industry, which is our bread and butter industry here in Michigan. Where do we stand now? Who's making cars, who's making parts, and who isn't, Carla?
As of yesterday, there were only 2 manufacturing plants in all of the U.S. that were still making cars. Everyone else is shut down. And I believe even one of those 2, the Kia plant, has now stopped production, or will stop production on the 30th. So almost everybody's shut down. There are some, Ford is talking about restarting again in April, but it really depends how quickly we can flatten this curve and have a safe environment for everyone to return back to work.
So plants are down, probably the auto suppliers too, for the most part?
Tier 1s, for the most part, are also down. You have to do that, again, for the safety of your workforce. So only essential companies are working, those who are making parts that are actually going into medical devices.
So Carla, when you look at the impact on the industry, how long can they endure this?
The good news is, it depends company by company, but we're in a much better shape than we were in 2008, 2009.
Okay.
If we think about it for a 30-day, let's say, shutdown, or even if 30 days is probably what we're looking at now. That's weatherable with the lines of credit that exist today, and also with cash reserves on hand. If we take that out to a 3-month interval, we're still okay. It's not great, but if you take that out to 6 months, then we're really looking at massive concerns financially that will require additional support.
So that's the companies themselves, the auto companies themselves. What about their suppliers? Are they in as good a shape? Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3? Where does the trouble spot here?
Well, I think you have to start going further down in the tiers. The big tier 1s, for the most part, have a pretty good financial sheet at the moment, pretty good balance sheet at the moment, and also have good access to funding. That's the big difference this time, is the banks are still there supporting the industries. There's still good lines of credit that exist. That's the big difference between now and 2008, 2009. But if you start looking down into some of the small and mid-sized manufacturers, their supply, or their ability to cope with this, isn't nearly as great. And it again depends company by company, but you've even got mom and pop shops that, let's face it, they're going to have to start doing serious layoffs right away. I was talking to some startups yesterday, those that have really been working in the cybersecurity, in the connected autonomous space, and they've already put drastic measures in place. They've taken salary cuts, they've laid off, basically people who for the next month or 2 won't have any role to play if they're business development or contract, going out and getting new business for the company. Nobody's going to want to talk to them for a while. It's just, let's get ourselves back in shape and get production moving again.
So those bottom level suppliers, those distant suppliers in this network, in this supply chain, if they're not able to survive this, if they're not able to reopen when the manufacturers do, what kind of issues does that create?
Well, it's going to create issues in creating the components. So you're going to quickly have to find other sources for those parts. Fundamentally, this supply base for the small and mid manufacturers has been in jeopardy for some time when we think about the impact of AI and Industry 4.0.
Yeah.
Many of them don't have the resources to invest in that capability, which means their efficiency is going to keep getting less and less. So they already were at risk. So this, even puts them more at risk. Now, there are, opportunities, fortunately, and we hope more will come to be able to infuse these suppliers with cash. And we certainly hope that now they're doing those pragmatic, tough decisions that are required in terms of their workforce and cash savings. So they'll be ready to start back up again when this situation mitigates itself.
Now, Carla, are we already starting to see big layoffs, massive layoffs? And if not, when do you expect those to roll through?
Already we're starting to see a lot. The number of unemployment applications just keeps increasing. We're already seeing it in, as I mentioned before, some of the startups, and some of the startups are already claiming distress, and some are actually closing their doors. Rolling into the supply base, if they don't have any place to send their parts and they're also shut down, I would think we're going to see these, people are going to wait. They're hoping April we can be back up. I think that's what everyone is hoping. But if come the beginning of April that doesn't look possible, I think we'll begin to see more layoffs and more salary cuts. We saw the salary cuts this morning announced by Ford. You've already seen it happening in the airline and hotel industries, those that have been basically decimated. It will have to happen by beginning of April, mid-April.
So, Carla, I'm thinking about General Motors, which last fall endured a long shutdown due to a labor strike. How are they impacted differently because of that incident they went through than perhaps the other manufacturers?
Well, fortunately for GM, they have a really good cash position right now. So yes, they were hit hard by the walkout, but still their cash position is quite strong. And they didn't cut their dividend like Ford did, and they have good lines of credit. They still have a fairly good credit rating. So they're still able to weather this perhaps best out of the big three at the moment.
So, Carla Bailo, it sounds like the bottom line is if we can flatten this curve in the next month to 6 weeks, these companies, these key industries for Michigan are going to be okay.
We believe they'll be able to bounce back. We'll see impact clearly to first quarter, second quarter, similar to what the stock markets are saying. But they'll be able to recover, maybe probably not full volume. It won't be another 17 million SAR. But it won't be the big hit that if this extends beyond the April timeframe.
Do you have any projection for North American vehicle sales this year in light of this crisis?
Well, we're working on those now, and it depends how long it continues. If it goes through, let's say April, mid-April, we'll be reducing our projection to the 16 million mark. Customers, it's going to take a while to get customers back in the showroom. For customers to be thinking again about buying a car, that's the last thing they're thinking about at the moment in most cases. I've heard stories where leases have come up and customers are having the dealer bring their new car, park it in their driveway, leave the keys in the car, and they've gone out and fully sanitized it and driven it from their driveway into their garage, and that's the furthest it's gone. So you've got those people. But I mean, people just going in to buy a new car, dealership traffic is severely down.
But you can probably get a good deal.
You can get a great deal right now. I mean, there are great offerings, and the automakers are doing their part, stepping up to help people with payments. But yeah, it's a good time to go searching for a vehicle right now if you need one.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.